Welcome into the 11 Warriors Report web report. You know these guys, Dan Hope and James Grega. I'm Marisa Contipelli. Guys, we can finally start really talking about some spring football here in the Buckeye State and, of course, for Ohio State, highlighted by the quarterback battle. Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, Tate Martell battling to replace JT Barrett.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a quarterback competition, that's always going to be what everybody's focused on, everybody's talking about during spring practice. So that's certainly been a focus. Like you mentioned, 3 guys competing for that spot. Haven't really gotten any indication yet as to who might be leading that battle. Urban Meyer keeping that close to the vest. He's said multiple times he wants somebody to separate themselves. Hasn't really happened yet. 3 talented guys. Dwayne Haskins played some last year. Joe Burrow played some 2 years ago. Tate Martell was a Gatorade High School National Player of the Year. So all these guys are talented. All these guys have different skill sets. The question is, which one of these guys can show that they can really take command of this offense and be the guy who everybody rallies around?
Well, we all know when you're a quarterback at Ohio State, it's going to take a little bit more than just commanding the offense. There's that leadership role that was really apparent with JT Barrett, and now that's something that they have to replace as well.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the big thing, and it's going to be the deciding factor, I think, in this quarterback battle is who's the best leader and who commands that huddle the best of the 3, because that's what Urban Meyer always talks about. I think skills is like, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th on the list for him. It's how can you lead this team? How can you push this team? Do you make the players around you better? There's a lot of veterans on this Ohio State offense in terms of the skill positions at receiver and running back. How do you make them better? How do you elevate their game? I think that's what Urban Meyer is looking for in his quarterback, and I think that's what's going to ultimately determine who starts in September.
One thing that should help the Ohio State offense is having to go up against that defense in practice every day. And Dan, what we've seen with the Buckeyes is that they just reload year after year. Even though you lose a handful of guys to the NFL draft, you still have guys like Nick Bosa who's returning.
Yeah, they got a lot of talent on that defense. I mean, Nick Bosa should be one of the best defensive linemen in college football this year. Draymond Jones, another guy who people thought might leave for the NFL, he could be one of the best defensive tackles in the country this year. Back end, you got a guy like Jordan Fuller, I think is going to be a real leader at that safety spot. Biggest question really right now is the linebacker position, because that was an area that was a weakness last year. They lost Chris Worley and Jerome Baker to the NFL, and now Tuff Borland sidelined with an Achilles injury. Could end up with 3 new starters at that linebacker spot. You have guys like Baron Browning, a 5-star sophomore, other guys like Justin Hilliard, Pete Werner, Malik Harris, and Keandre Jones, all competing for those spots. Who can step up and really provide solid play at that position? That's a big question this spring.
And then, of course, you have the secondary battle. You have to replace a Damon Webb and Denzel Ward, and also the coach and Kerry Combs. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, you know, Kendall Sheffield's a guy, he started last year. He's going to be the #1 corner on this team. You have a guy like Jeff Okudah, who got some time last year when Damon Arnett was suspended. There's a lot of question marks there. Can Taver Johnson develop talent like Kerry Combs did? I think he can. It's just going to be a matter of time. But I think overall, you really have to like the depth that this team has in their defensive backfield. Damon Arnett's back. Kendall Sheffield's back. Okudah's a guy who got some time. They're going to be just fine. I think the questions, like Dan mentioned, are linebacker right now.
Well, and as we've seen, too, the Ohio State staff undergone a few title changes. There's increase in salary over the last few months. And Dan, when you look at this coaching staff, bringing in a new guy like Alex Grinch to work with Greg Schiano on the defense.
You just look at it, it's just an embarrassment of riches on this coaching staff. And you've got 2 guys who are established head coaches, Greg Schiano and Kevin Wilson, working as your offensive and defensive coordinators. And then you've got co-offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator Ryan Day, Alex Grinch, 2 guys who everyone expects are going to be future head coaches. So you've got a ton of smart minds working in that room with Urban Meyer, and Urban builds such a culture of collaboration at Ohio State. You always have to worry a little bit about, oh, are egos going to get inflated? Is somebody going to feel slighted in this? But I think there's so much talent in that room. If they can all figure out how to work together, you've got a lot of great minds to really build a team that can maybe contend for a national championship this year.
Well, certainly a lot to look forward to as spring ball is underway, and of course the spring game will take place on April 14th. Thanks for watching the 11 Warriors Web Reports.